Let's try this again. Me and my perfectionist tendencies will never allow me to do for a good, just like solid one take intro. Anyways, hi besties, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are seeing my face for the first time, hi, my name is Maya and I like to talk about books here on the internet. Today we're doing the good old-fashioned bread and butter video of BookTube, and that is a wrap-up. We are wrapping up the month of January. We're gonna go into February, and already, you guys, I need to make a quick confession at the start of this video. My first ever, I think, or was it? I think it was my first video of the year. I did my reading goals for 2025, and within that video I had stated I would like to post 2 times a week. I did say I would at least try and post 1 time a week on either a Tuesday or Thursday. Not happening. We're switching it around. Once a week on Wednesday for the foreseeable future. There you go. Listen, I was trying to compete with people who have potentially a little bit more time to do a little bit more content and make it like watchable, presentable, all of the words, right? So I'm gonna do what I can feasibly do, which is 1 video a week, and mostly it's gonna be the bread and butter videos of like wrap-ups, reviews, TBRs, book hauls. And listen, I'll be working behind the scenes. I will be working my little butt off behind the scenes to do a little bit more in-depth videos, but I need to start here so that I have time to create those types of videos and to do them well and to figure out how I want to incorporate that into my life, because I do 1 video a week here. I do 1 video a week on my lifestyle channel where I just, film the weekend stuff. And then I am starting to do a podcast as well. And that'll be like once or twice a week. I will be pumping out some content there. I am creating the backlog first so that I can have time in between to like actually create quality content on every single platform. Not to mention, I am trying to continue on with the goal of like the short form content platforms, like Instagram and TikTok. I am actually trying to do that. So like all of the things, plus like my full-time job, plus trying to get extra hours there, plus, social obligations, and I'm in my choir on Sundays. So like I have 6 days of the week to work, not 7, because on the 7th day and the beginning of the week, I am in church praising Jesus. So yes, so there's a lot of things. So that's like the whole thing about like this channel with the content that's about to be pumped out and also the scheduling. Okay, now that we're all good there, let's talk about the singular book that I read for January. I just have a question for us all. I did only read 1 physical book, but here's the thing. There's 3 separate stories within it. So can we count it as 3 separate works, and those works equating to books, quote unquote? 3 separate stories, 1 singular book. Christmas Cocoa Murder by 3 authors, Carleen O'Connor, Maddie Day, and Alex Erickson. What are my thoughts? Well, overall, I can say summarily, it was confusing. It was entertaining. It was a book that you have to be in the mood for. And all 3 stories, you have to be in a very similar mood. So let's discuss, shall we? A Christmas Cocoa Murder. 3 authors came together for this book to create stories wherein hot chocolate was involved in some capacity. Now, I must say, the second story was stretching that definition quite a fair bit, and I don't know if I would have put this in the same book necessarily. I can see where the author was going, but if I am thinking I am getting death by chocolate, I want death by chocolate, right? I feel like I was misled. So it was kind of stretching the title a bit, but I get it. I understand what they were trying to go for here. What I kind of like about all of these is that, yes, hot chocolate was involved, murder was involved. Female protagonists that were kicking butts and taking names, okay? Who just were good at solving these mysteries. And another thing, I like how the authors made it so that our investigators, while not actually detectives, well, one kind of was. Actually, no, two of them actually were detectives. There was only one singular story, the second, that the female protagonist had no real educational backing for being a investigator. Now, from what I read in the back, if it's to be believed, which I believe it is, the author has multiple short stories involving these characters, and it kind of explains how she was trusted by the police force and everything. But I like how, here's what I was getting to, I like how each story are people who were not technically the main source of investigation for the crime scene, were still used in a way that made sense, were respecting of the police force after the fact when they were involved, when there was investigators involved, and that there were investigators involved, and that it made sense, it wasn't disrespectful in any way, and it gave more credit and credibility to all of the different characters, and it didn't make you feel like it was trying to say, because the police force are idiots, I had to step in. Because quite frankly, you know, there's so much about investigations and things that we as the general public don't understand why certain things are brought to light, why certain things are not. And overall, though, it is important to the investigation, and there are reasons why certain things are like hush hush. There are certain things where, you know, if like all of the family or certain friends or whatever tried to get involved, it could potentially mess up the case. It could cause the case to go on a little bit longer because they may have accidentally tampered with something, or they might have alerted the killer about what happened, and, you know, they're able to get that tip a little bit ahead of time and try and get one step ahead of the police force and all of this, okay, right? So there are like so many scenarios, right, where it does not make sense for people to get involved. And okay, so there's this one story that I read in Booktober that was called A Bookshop to Die For. And it really, okay, so it showed the police force that was there as being highly unintelligent. Now, it had a good explanation for it, so I wasn't necessarily against it, but it's stuff like that where you would typically think like, oh, for things like a cozy murder mystery genre, these are the elements that you would expect of the characters, like the main investigators, the police force, this and that and third, right? So I thought this was kind of going to be like that. Like, I didn't think necessarily cozy murder mystery because, one, I think you would sell it a little differently on the cover. I mean, it's kind of cute in its own interesting, kind of morbid way. But, you know, I feel like you would sell that a little bit differently. I didn't think that it in any way exhibits any sort of cozy murder mystery types of vibes when you read the synopses. So I wasn't expecting that, but I also wasn't expecting like deep dive, psych bending, mind like stretching types of storyline, conversation, characters. I wasn't expecting any of that, right? And it doesn't give that, and it didn't promise that. I didn't know what I was necessarily expecting, but I kind of sort of leaned more towards cozy murder mystery than just like regular murder mystery, because there are differences in how those things are written. And this is none of that. So going into this book, I would caution you have to like be in a very interesting mood. Like, it's just, there's no other way to describe it. You have to like, I'm trying to think how to describe this. I feel like you get it though. I feel like you get what I'm trying to say, even though I can't really articulate it the best right now, which is awesome because this is what I'm trying to like accomplish. I'm trying to accomplish articulating my thoughts on a book that I read in January. Like, you gotta be in the mood for something that is fun, entertaining, light, if that is even a good word to describe a murder mystery, but like, this is not cozy murder mystery vibes, but it is cozy murder mystery adjacent, so you kind of have to be in that mood, okay? And so basically the 3 stories, I'll give you a basic summary. I almost want to give you guys like the funny summary that literally makes no sense, because honestly that would probably make more sense than me trying to articulate it and make it make sense. So maybe I should. Okay, so in our first story, I'll do a little combination of both. In our first story, we're following Siobhan, okay, our female main protagonist, and she is actually going to be a part of the police force in the tiny town that she lives in, and there is quite a fair few things that are afoot this night as we are following along on her journey. We are about a couple of days away from Christmas, and so in her town there is this gigantic play that is held in what is essentially like the town square. I mean, it's tinier than that, but like in the center of the town, there's a platform that is built, and you know, there are people from all age ranges participating in this play every single year. It's like the talk of the town, is the biggest thing. Now, they have a designated Santa every single year, and these Santas are competitive, man. So the Santa this year decides to do some things. Okay, so literally as we are thrust into the story, we are getting a picture of a dog napper, a serial dog napper. Dogs are missing, and everyone is concerned and trying to look for them until like the play begins, and then everyone is in the middle of town, and even though they're concerned about their dogs, they're still not like out looking or anything like that. They're just kind of like, okay, we'll deal with this later. Weird. And because of the rival Santa ship, and that will come into play in a second, don't you worry. Because of the rival Santa ship, this year, this Santa, who has had a health decline, that is important to note, he has had a health decline up here, has decided that he is gonna do a dunk tank with hot chocolate in the freezing winter. I don't know. So he has this dunk tank, and it's rigged behind the stage to come out onto stage after the play is done. Riddle me why? I don't know. I really don't know, but it's a thing that they're doing. So they set this up, the play begins, everyone's not worried about their dogs in this moment, and the show starts. Show is pretty underway when all of a sudden the dunk tank rolls out unexpectedly. And as they're having some technical difficulties rigging the dunk tank back onto the track and getting it to go back behind the stage, Santa, who is already sitting on the plank, is like, hey, anyone want to throw a snowball at the target? Because they're using snowballs instead of just balls that you typically throw at a dunk tank. The elf, who is his helper, is quite upset with Santa this year and decides he's going to be the first to chuck a snowball at a target. Very quickly, hitting the bullseye, dunking him into hot chocolate, It's so stupid. And then they finally get the rigging to go to work, and it goes back behind the stage. They're about to start the play up again, but they're like, okay, let's have an intermission. Siobhan leaves for a sec, goes to the stores that are open and the shops and everything, and she hears something, and she decides she's gonna go and investigate. What does she find? All of the missing dogs with antlers on their ears. And then, during all of that, there is some sort of song that goes off. Everyone goes back to their seats for the play. And then, again, out rolls the dunk tank too early on the rigging. And there is a body that is floating. And an unmistakable red amidst the hot chocolate. And now we have a case on our hands. And we follow along as Siobhan is getting a little head start on her position as a town officer. And we are following her along as she questions an elf, a rival in Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and a butcher. Is the suspect one of them, or someone completely different? Because everyone is sus. The answer was helped along by a different type of eyewitness. A parrot, of all things. Can't make that up. I gave that story a 3-star because yes, I am counting all of the different stories as like books. So I gave this a 3-star because it was entertaining. The characters were very well rounded. I loved the sense of humor. There was just a lot of interesting plot pieces that were unnecessary, and namely, honestly, like a particular person that I think the author wanted to try to portray as like a potential love interest, even though nothing happened there. He wasn't even a part of the suspect pool. Like, there was just nothing there, so his character was useless. And I don't particularly like useless characters or spending so much time on useless characters when you only have so much time in your story. Another thing, now that I'm looking back on it, was the mental health aspect involving our Santa, who did some things. Now, it made sense. It explained certain things away, but it didn't explain what he was dealing with, what he was going through, and I think that would have made it more humane. Like, we were only told this is an excuse, a justification, and I'm sorry, but you know, no, it's not. There are certain ailments and mental health things that truly cannot be controlled, right? So there is that, but there are things that can be. But the way that this was talked about, it seems like it wasn't necessarily that, but you don't know for sure. If it wasn't that, that is not an excuse. That is not a justification. And that's kind of like lazy writing to be like, oh, all of this because mental illness, and it not being explained, it not like coming back to that and trying to understand what was going on or getting any answers whatsoever. Like, it was all very vague. If it was that, again, not getting answers, it was all very vague. And what I mean by like not getting answers is, what was he struggling with? What was actually going on? Because the people in this town saw him as a good guy. And then they were just like, well, this past year, oh, he made everyone hate him. How? Why? Why was everyone so quick to judge? Especially when they saw that play out. Like, you know that's not how he is. You know that there was something going on. And yet, it was like, they wouldn't talk about it. It was literally a different version of Encanto. Like, no one talked about Bruno. Well, Bruno deserves to be talked about. In fact, Bruno needs to be talked about because, hello, Not talking about it is the issue. And then it's creating other issues. So, actually, that's a pretty good, accurate description of the story, not gonna lie. So, what is going on? It's, again, you understand that in these stories, it's more lighthearted. That's not something that you should necessarily focus on. But I do think that when it comes to mental health things, I just think that you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with spreading this narrative of, certain things are justifications if they can be helped, or that, all of these things happened and no one cared, everyone switched, and I don't know, I feel like you have to be careful about the storyline and how that works out, and I feel like we never got back around to it. I truly don't, and it's kind of sad. So anyways, yeah, that was fine. That was a 3-star. Now, for the second story, this is where I felt a little lied to, okay? We don't even get Death by Chocolate, spoiler alert, but actually not spoiler alert. We get hot chocolate as a part of the storyline, but it feels very, stretched. It feels so stretched. I'm so sorry. I genuinely love the story. Honestly, would have been a 4 out of 5 experience, honestly. But I gave it a 3. I love that I'm starting with the rating first and I ended with the rating on the first one. I'll just jump right into the rating system. I did 3 instead of 4 because, I don't know, I feel like I was promised Death by Chocolate and I did not get that. We are following along yet another female protagonist named Robbie, and she is a cook at a diner, and it's Christmas time, or it's around Christmas time. So of course, we are getting all of the descriptions of the types of food that she is making, and oh my goodness, I was salivating some of the time. This author knows how to talk about food. You should be a food reviewer, quite frankly. I would love that. Give me a picture of something that I should definitely try, and then try and describing that. Oh, you wouldn't even have to try the food to start salivating, okay? It's how good this author is. So, love the writing style, love the descriptions and everything. What I did not like, again, was the use of, cocoa. But it wasn't Death by Chocolate, so that took off a couple points. The other thing that summary. So, she's working at the diner, it's Christmas time, she is going over to her future in-laws house, I'm just gonna call it future in-laws house, and she's having dinner with them, and they invite someone over, and this someone is just awful. I hate him. I hate him. No one deserves to die, but I hate him. Okay. It was understandable why other people did what they did. Anyway, it is understandable. Excuse me. Hiccups. So, he comes over with his wife, and he's an absolute jerk. During a lot of these interactions, this man, this scum of a human being, let me say that, this scum of a human being, treated his wife terribly, treats women terribly, treats animals terribly, and we find out that he is not a decent guy at all. He's not. Again, no one deserves to have their lives taken, but oh my goodness, he's a terrible human being. I would be so tempted, and I'm not a violent person. Maybe I am. I do have violent thoughts on occasion. That's more intrusive thoughts. Anywho, if I were to meet a guy like this in real life, I would want him to get punched in the face. Okay? This is how bad this guy is. I would want him to get punched in the face. Intrusive thoughts would probably win if he decided to speak like that to any female in front of me. Let's just say this author is very, very good at giving descriptions and rounded characters and everything. This guy was a jerk. You hated him. Okay. well, he left with his wife after you learn about him and hate him, and they leave with a little puppy. So this little puppy was actually supposed to be a gift from the future in-laws to their son's son. So this guy had a wife at some point, or a baby mama, and has custody of the son. We actually don't know about the mom, but assuming she is alive and well. Okay, that's what we're just gonna assume. I know this book kind of like goes to the more morbid. We're just assuming she's alive and well. The new woman, who's Robbie, comes in though, and apparently she has a good relationship with the son, so that's cute. And she has a good relationship with the son. Obviously, they're dating, and she has a good relationship with the in-laws. So she comes over for Christmas, and they're having their holiday dinner and everything. The grandfather makes like some sort of excuse for the son to or for the grandson to, go away so that the dog handler could come in with a little surprise and everything. And they're gonna try and keep it a surprise until Christmas Day because it's still not Christmas Day. So the guy that came over for dinner and his wife volunteered to take the dog. Now, remember how I said that he is just a general disgusting human being, especially around women and animals? So we find out that this guy, this despicable human being, love how I'm thinking that it's an actual human being and not a character. This despicable character has a reputation for more illegal activity with animals, specifically dogs, and A-words them. Same with women. Again. Okay? Sorry, I feel very passionately about this character, okay? And so he takes the dog for the evening. Now, I must defend these other characters, okay? Nobody knew about the underground thing with the dogs except for Robbie. Now that I'm thinking about it, I cannot defend Robbie. I can defend the other characters, okay? I can't defend Robbie. She knew the rumor and still allowed that little doggy to go with them. Hun? I'm looking at you sideways a little bit. I am looking at you sideways. Now, she is a good person, okay? Throughout the rest of the time, she's a good person. But I can't defend that action. She knew. She knew the rumor. If I had one inkling that a person in my general vicinity did that to animals and participated in illegal activities with animals that hurt and A-worded other animals, walk out that door or risk a slap in the face. I can't defend Robbie in that scenario, which now that I'm actually thinking it through as I'm talking about it, which almost makes me want to deduct another star, but I'm not gonna do that because it is a story. But dang, what in the world? What in the world? What is this narrative? What are we doing here? Anyways, so the dog goes home with them. On an early morning walk with the new dog, this despicable man dies on ice. Now, they have not gotten ice, and cameras and an eyewitness saw a figure. Now it's up to Robbie, well, not really, it's up to the police, but it's up to Robbie to figure it out as well, because nosiness pays off, I guess, in this town, and she's able to get all of the tea about this case. I like in this scenario that even though it's also kind of small town, or at least confined to small town vibed feelings of this case, I like that, not everyone is a suspect, because yes, everyone's a suspect until they're not a suspect, but you have your main people. And I do kind of like that they play out the wrong person was accused and they had to go through things. And so like every character is going through it within the family, basically, because again, this person, this despicable human being who died the next day because of ice, slipping on ice, walking the dog, he had enemies, okay? And, you know, those enemies were suspects. But he did have dinner with the people that were questioned were the people that last saw him. So his wife, Robbie's future in-laws, because I'm calling it. That relationship was cute, by the way. And herself, which threw her for a loop. And I'm like, well, you were one of the last people to see him, so that makes sense. And there were multiple different things that kind of took you to the right answer, but just enough to where it was like, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, that, or the third, whatever. I appreciated that. I appreciated that element because within the first story with Siobhan, literally everyone was a suspect, as they should have been, because there was a lot of people that disliked him, but also there were leads into certain things where there were dead ends and we didn't really get a good, like, wrapping up of the story. Like, it was just like, here's a thought, here's a thought, here's a thought, oh wait, here's the actual answer. And it's like, and they were so just random. And I mean a freaking parrot. Need I say more? The freaking parrot was the best eyewitness. I'm not even kidding. You can't make that up. A parrot was the best eyewitness in that story. And the most reliable. So, sad, I know. So, there was that, but so as, you know, we're following along all of the different people getting questioned, the last people to have seen him, and it truly was the last people that seen him, and also the dog handler. So we got a good picture of everybody being suspects, but with like a good focus and a good thought logic through process. And I appreciate that because not often in like the more cozier side of murder mysteries have I seen, and I've only read a few, but of the few that I have read, I have not seen necessarily a lot of like good logic that is firmly planted within the people that we're following and then with the police force and then them actually working together in a way that works. So I appreciated that. But yeah, as everyone is being questioned, you start to see little details peek through that lead to the actual killer, and it's not surprising, but it is highly entertaining, if that could be the right word, finding out how we get there. So I appreciate that. And overall 3 stars. So again, I deducted some points because not Death by Chocolate, not at all. 2, I don't think certain things were necessary. 2, no. And if this is necessary to know, which I think it could be, getting a little bit more conversation, because again, these stories are supposed to be light. They are, and you have to be in the mood for a light read. It's not in-depth, it's not deep dive conversations, it's not like mind-bending, psych-bending types of things, but I feel like there are certain elements that if you're gonna use them, you have to come back around. Like, you have to circle around. You have to make that element worth it, or else why are you writing about it? You know, it feels like the characters were fleshed out. The author knew what they were talking about. They knew who they were showing us. But I feel as though it wasn't given the weight that was deserved. Granted, okay? Someone who is like that evil person, getting his life taken like that, one may think that was his due justice, that was the end of the conversation. I don't think it was. I think there is certain information that we had to know to dislike him and give such a motive for hate that someone would go to that length. But I feel as though that wasn't even the motive. So we didn't wrap up every single little thing. And by that I mean, I don't think the whole animal A word was wrapped up in a way that provided the right type of conversation. We all know that's bad, right? Right? If you hesitated. Therapy. So, I mean, therapy is good for everyone in general, but I don't believe we got a good resolution to that conversation. I think we needed more. Because here's the thing, if it was just him, would that have ended it there? Maybe. But he was associated with something bigger, and I'm almost like, we should have seen some of that play out. Like, if people knew that this was going down and it was illegal, maybe showing a little bit more into that aspect than worrying about the spice of a cocoa blend. Granted, that made sense. Read it, it'll make sense. But I don't know, like, I feel like you only needed one aspect of his personality. You didn't need both unless you were going to conclude both. And I don't think both were concluded. I think one is still very much open-ended and needs to be dealt with. You know, if that makes sense. Like, maybe not in this story even, but like, I feel just like, I don't know, stuff like that. Really tough stuff, like, you know, the mental health and A wording of any kind. I feel like those are very sensitive things that should be handled in a sensitive, careful manner. When writing in stories, because yes, write what you know, but we also write about what we don't know, and there is nothing more humility giving than writing a story and a character that you know nothing of that world or about that world, and people who are in it and their perspective of what you've written and how you view this thing being so off base or so just like, oh, I am a baby in the world of this topic, you know, let me learn more about it, you know, and grow in knowledge and understanding of that topic. There is nothing more humbling than realizing how much you do not know, and that is okay. Once you are aware of it, take whatever action you so choose, but, you know, being aware that you are not aware of things, admitting that, like, hey, maybe I don't know about this, and that's okay. And it's okay to write what you know and to try and go into worlds that you don't, but you also have to be very careful when you do. And I just feel like maybe this was not the thing that needed to be written about. If that is who this person is, then we need a little bit more in the way of maybe not resolution, but like a tied end to that element. I don't know. Again, I think personally, before I even conclude this video, I am very much aware that I was in the mood, apparently, to deep dive conversationally on a book, and this just isn't the type of book for that. I will admit that right now. Hands in the air, I admit it. Okay, anyway, so let's go on to the third story. Okay, so the third story, we are now in the setting of an escape room. So we don't even really have tiny town, small vibes here. It's just very tiny room vibes. It's giving that one movie where there was like a group of people that had to escape I think it was like a hotel or something, and they were literally locked in it, and people, if they guessed wrong or didn't get something in time, they would... That is a movie, right? I'm not what's the word? I'm not like making stuff up in my head, right? I mean, I definitely make stuff up in my head, but I feel like that was a movie or something. Or maybe they got trapped. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I know that there was like some sort of like escape-esque room type thing, but it was like larger. It was a hotel, and it was more of an apocalyptic story, but like everyone dies and stuff. Anyway, third story. That's where we got off. We're in like the outskirts of town, and there is this one man who just likes making escape rooms. I don't know. And so he has this escape room, and he has everyone come in, and it's just like this wintry night, close to Christmas, and they're all gonna do this escape room. We're following along, again, our female main protagonist, Chrissy, and it sounds like she was a detective, or she used to be, or something like that, or she's just really good and used to like go to a school for that, and then had a different switch of career. I don't know what, but she is now working at a bookstore, I believe. So anyways, she gets off early, goes to this thing with a friend of hers, Rita. And they're going to this escape room by a man named Lewis, and he has set up this escape room as like very intricately detailed and Christmas themed, obviously. Well, as they go into the escape room, they all have to enter through their own separate doors as part of the puzzle. They all are figuring it out, going through the room. Yeah, the book is about to fall. Going through the room, like getting all of the things that they need to get the passcode together. And then when they all finally escape in time from their individual rooms, then they go out into the main room to find their host lying on the ground. Blood around him. And empty hot chocolate mug. Now, this hot chocolate mug had one of the contestants' names on it. So now everybody's freaking out. Chrissy's going full on detective mode. Okay, who got out first? Who actually came into the room first? Because that's a thing that did happen. Who was the person that was essentially targeted? Where are all the clues from the different rooms? And who was not blamed for any of this, as everyone is pointing fingers at each other? We do find out, and it's actually quite entertaining. It was very detailed. I actually really enjoyed it. This story probably the most of all of them, because it made the most sense to have a civilian be the one to find out who the killer is, because there is no one else there. There is no way to escape the place that they are all in. So it's like do or die, no pun intended, time right now. And the way that the person was figured out. Like our everyone's a suspect. Everyone distrusts people here. And a lot of people have a motive, okay? But the way that the actual killer was found out was exceptional. And the fact that it could have ended so badly right then and there, the way that there was, everything was just perfectly set up so that we had a resolution. Oh, I'm gonna get cut off. 1 second. Un momentito, por favor. Every time I film, I just, Anyways, we're back. What was I saying? The way that everything was just set up so perfectly, and it wasn't even the details of finding out who the killer was, it was also in who came and the group that was there, and I loved it. It was exceptional. I don't really have any necessarily bad things to say against it. I mean, I'm switching my rating. I was gonna say that all of this was 3 stars, but no, I'm switching my rating. That last story was 4-star worthy, let me tell you. It had the rounded characters, the interesting banter back and forth. It had all of the perfectly placed plot points that led to the correct answer, but gave you just enough of a story and just enough of a, could it be this person, could it be that person, surprise twist there. That was very logical. I don't know why, but I really am down with the logic-based, very detail-oriented plot points that are just set up just so to give a nice, fun, light reading experience. Do you know how hard that is? And the fact that this author can do it so well just proves how good of an author they truly are, because writing that is so hard. You have to really be there with the characters. You have to experience every single little detail. And I gotta give it to this author, because for me personally, okay, when I write, I have this scene going on in my head. So it's playing like a movie, but it continues. So it's like, I get this spark of inspiration. So then I write. Okay, and it's playing out like a movie, and I'm doing my best to kind of go along with the details, but the movie does not press pause. Not like that. It presses pause when I come out of like the imaginary zone, whether that be through dreams, whether that be through just daydreaming, or just a really good focus session. That I would kind of, I don't know, I differentiate that from daydreaming, because there's just like knowing exactly what's going on, and then there's like daydreaming the scene about it, and then there's actually like I'm falling asleep, I'm dead tired, and then suddenly I have a dream about it, and I just happen to remember some of the plot points a little more vividly than others. So there's different scenarios for that, but basically when I write that out, the scene doesn't stop. When I am like daydreaming it out, the scene doesn't stop. So I'm trying to focus on like the most important of the details, not every single intricate thing. This author describes the escape rooms, the individualized escape rooms of a group of people, which is already hard, but the individualized rooms in such a way where if I really, really wanted to, I could have pictured the room in intricate detail. I didn't want to, so I didn't. But because at that point I kind of just like accepted my fate of like, oh, this is definitely just a light mood read, let's just do it. At that point, I was kind of not trying to look for that type of thing. But those elements pop out at you regardless, right? So having that detail, the author sat with this work. The author knows what they're doing. They know the room, they know the setup, they know the story, like front to back to front, side to side, all of the things. And then to not only have that for the rooms, but to have that for the characters. Like, she sat down with them, she knew exactly how each character was gonna act and react and behave, and their personalities were so different, and it was so awesome. And some of the backstories, you just never would have guessed. You couldn't have. It was amazing. Like, you knew where it was leading to, right? And you knew the suspect. But then you, like, got the motives and everything, and you're just like, hold up, am I tripping? And yeah, you did look at other people. You genuinely believed in that. And I just love that. And for such a short amount of time, too. Like, the detail for that short amount of time, exceptional. The detail just in general was crazy. Oh, to get back to, like, my thoughts kind of go like a movie. And so then when it stops, but it continues. Like, it doesn't go back over. You can't rewind it. So that's what I was trying to say. It's so hard to notice all of the details and to go back and rewind, at least in my opinion, to the point where, you know, if a writer can do that and do it so well and capture all of those details, not just for themselves, for us too, it's like, whoa, this author knows what they're doing. So yeah, definitely a 4-star now. And I wouldn't give it a 5-star because it just wasn't the best of the best. I like to save my 5 stars for the best of the best, you know, but it was good. It was really, really good, and I do recommend that. I actually recommend all of these authors, quite frankly, because there's something about their writing styles that I genuinely like. Now, there were certain things of the first 2 writing styles where I think if given the chance for more, that would have helped, potentially. But I don't know that for sure, so I can't say that for sure. So that definitely knocked down some points. And, you know, mood is definitely a thing that factors in, unfortunately. It is a subjective rating, okay? So don't take my word as the gospel truth, not that I thought you guys did. If anyone ever tries to, don't. Just don't. No. No. Anywho, so that was this book. So we got a 3-star, 3-star, 4-star. Yay, for the reading experience of January. If you guys like videos like this, please feel free to leave a like so that I know to do more videos like this. And then of course, if you guys would like to join our little community here, it's free. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you can be notified every time I post new videos. I will leave all of the socials and everything linked in the description box down below, including my lifestyle channel, should you guys choose to peruse that and be a little nosy into my private life. And that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for being the best bookish bestie that ever was, is, or ever will be, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.